We had a meeting. He came to my studio. Me and him sat down, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard you working with this kid Snoop. I think he's phenomenal." I was like, "Shit, yeah. I mean, if you go that way with him, you gonna go." Next thing we know, we all were working on the Deep Cover soundtrack. Next thing you know, they end up doing the Deep Cover title track. That's when it all took off, you know. But yeah, he came to me and asked me how I felt. He knew I was developing him, and then from there, it's, you know, I mean, the great thing about the Snoop, if you want to say about Snoop, the great thing about Snoop, how Snoop is right now, for his talent level, is the same. You know what I mean? Like that's his DNA, as we will say. You know what I mean? How he can rhyme on a dime. He's charismatic. He's a little shyer then, but you know he's a little more bolder with what he does. You know, because he was a young kid trying to do his thing. But you know, he was the same for as like the sizzle, the fire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, Warren told that. I mean, Warren told us. You know, remember, Coco, Warren sold us so hard on Snoop. We said, man, we can't wait to meet the motherfucker, man.
Oh yeah. It was like, man, because we used to wiggle, and he used to go to the spot Warren G in Santa Ana, McDonald's. He always He's like, man, y'all got to hear, man. And I'm like, it's a trip how, you know, things happen, how destiny is that, you know, they came through the situation and end up doing what they were supposed to do, which was a blessing for their whole careers. And we actually happened to be on the same soundtrack. We got a cut me and Hutch did called Nickel Sleep Nickel. So during the fallout, during the auditioning, during telling Eazy, man, you better defend yourself, doing the disputes, all that was while the breakout was going down.
Exactly. Yeah. We still work. I think, and I think what's cool, like about, you know, if you look at Warren G, the dope thing about Warren G paid attention to looking at me as a young, he was looking at over my shoulder and over Dre's shoulder as a young producer, you know, and learned from us to actually really know how to make the records. You know what I mean? And then took the sound synonymous as, you know, it was G-Funk as it is, and what I was doing developing as a younger producer, and him being younger than me, for him to be able to grasp it and do it in that fashion, it's incredible, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I always said Warren G belongs in the Homeboy Hall of Fame because the stuff that he's been a part of.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's ultimate homeboy. I love him. That's my brother. That's my little brother, man. I love Warren G, man.
I'll say this: the first time I got a chance, I had to sneak and listen to some of y'all records because I was a little young back then.
Of course.
I had to sneak and listen to it. Black Mafia Life.
Okay.
VSOP. Those records on there, and then the first time I had a chance to listen, I gotta go. I swear to God, I should have had took time to find it. I still got the Kokane record with Slow Burning 22.5 Fahrenheit. That was the first. That was the first record because back then you guys didn't drop the single. For some reason, y'all didn't drop the single, which I thought was smart because you had a chance to listen to the whole record. Right. So I bought the record for that one song, and then I ended up going home listening to it. I'm like, oh, this is dope. Like, who is this dude again?
Yeah, that's Eric. Eric crazy. Eric wouldn't drop a commercial single, but he'll service it, but you couldn't buy it. If you wanted the song, you had to buy the album. You know, that's the brilliance of Eazy-E.
That worked out like.
Yeah, that worked. Hey, we liked it.
Yeah, it was both those records, man. To me, I think really put hip hop, especially for the West Coast, really put hip hop in a different space because I feel like it really showed a different side of West Coast rap and hip hop in general. And then obviously you had the Chronic and Doggy Style and you know Warren dropped Regulate the G-Funk era and so forth. But then when you guys first heard Bone Thugs and Harmony, and you heard those four brothers get down, how they got down.
Right.
What was your initial reaction? I got to hear Cocane's initial reaction. I know Kokane is the folk, so I want to hear it. And Hutch, you go ahead after him.
After doing the NWA, after doing Black Mafia, Uncle Sam's Curves, I mean, prior to that, Black Mafia, I was amazed because, you know, I'm strictly on some West Coast stuff. Anything that sounds different, I'm going to be like, hey, what's that? But see, going back to what Hutch said, Eazy-E was a true visionary, you know, outside of the coast. When I heard him, got a chance to, you know, hear the rest of their stuff, I was like, oh man, that's pretty catchy. You know, but really drew me to the attention. Eazy brought him out here, but some of the members of the groups was buck wild when they first got out of here. You know, they'll tell you.
They was like rock stars before rock stars.
Yeah,
before they became rock stars.
And I was like, I was like, okay, we still doing our thing. That's kind of different because, you know, Eazy was so different at a time to when, you know, Essays and Brothers really didn't hook up. He reached out to Brown Side, your Kid Frost. He had the G-Funk sound already, the original members of the G-Funk. And then he had these kids for Bone that were coming, you know, different from the West Coast sound. At first, I was like, yeah, okay, what's that? You know, I didn't diss it. It was just different from the West Coast sound. But after he put it together with some of the tracks with Unique and Kenny McLeod,
DJ Yella, yep.
DJ Yella, I was like, oh, okay, these kids got something. And once these started doing shows, I'm like, oh, me and Hutch already said, man, they on some Beatles shit. Aaron was smart for that move. And it was amazing because I absorbed their type of style. And because of Bone Thugs and Harmony, you know, a lot of people was raised off that. And you can hear some of their style incorporated by being inspired by Bone Thugs and Harmony. So it was crazy. If you notice, we did a video with Eazy-E of Dr. Dre 187 Killer EP, and it was a song called Any Last Words, produced by Code 187, and I'm on the hook. Me and him is actually on the hook. Well, that was the first time you actually seen some of the members of Bone. And fresh off
that video.
I remember. Right. Okay, now I'm remembering it. Okay, yeah.
So, you know, that lets you know they made a perfect addition along with BG, along with Knockout.
Dracer.
You know what I mean? It made a nice addition. And when Bone came, it was like, wow, man. It overseeded my expectations, but we knew that they had that Beatle star mentality. We knew that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I thought it was incredible when I heard them freestyling. How to put the madness together, I didn't really, you know, since I'm a visionary, I was like, okay, yeah, it can work, but you know, saying it can work and then actually making it work is the hurdle. You know, I was really, you know, to go on with it. Kenny and DJ Unique did such a great job on it, along with DJ Yella did such a great job on developing them. It was incredible. I along with Coca, just when I saw them, I was like, okay, that's the next level. You know what I mean? Like that's the next level of like, because no one had ever heard that before on that level. You know what I mean? With some dope funky, like some funky shit in the fast rapping against it, and you know, all of that. You know, like there was organized confusion basically. All the guys sound different. All of them had a different personality, and then you know, because like I said, if you don't see it, I mean, if you don't actually see it developing, it's like, okay, it's a lot of great ideas that just were great ideas that never got off. You know, theirs actually was a great idea that got off, but it comes from just like what I told you earlier. Like when you hear back then, when you heard somebody either had it or they didn't. They had it when you heard them. It's just a matter of putting the lightning in a bottle, just like a Kokane, just like you know, anybody that came to Ruthless, they either had it. The ones that are like in the books of being like some legendary people, they had it when they walked through the door. You know what I mean? So it just is a matter of how do we put that lightning in the bottle? And when Eric was like, okay, we're going to do it like this. And he got with the right people to do it, you know, and he was right. You know, I was his liaison at the time. And I was like, you know, he would always tell me, he's like, you know, people ask me like, why I didn't work on Bone? Well, I had to do Above the Law, Kokane. I had to help him with his shit. You know what I mean? I had to oversee. Here, listen to this. What you think about this? I had Brown Side. I had Kid Frost. I had the lion's share of the work and help him evaluate what should be done and what shouldn't be done. You know what I mean? So I wish I would have, you know, because I knew about it from the beginning of the embryo stages. But yeah, man, yeah, Nick, I thought it was incredible because of what it was. I just didn't really realize it, like Coca said, until it all came together and you saw it and like, oh, that's phenomenal, you know.
And then years later, when you look at it, you know, whether people want to realize it or not, whether you listen to trap, whether you listen to your drill or your Migos, that type of style and cadence, where you could contribute a big gigantic puzzle piece to Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Absolutely,
no question.
The slow beats and rapping fast. You're right, slow beats and rapping fast. That's Bone. That was the formula. Yeah. The slowing the beats down and rapping fast. Yeah.
That was it. I mean, even when I talked to Crazy Bone, I told him, I said that record which he did with the Brat, and I was like, the Brat was here. I was like, dude, I'll say it, you won't, but I'll say you were up here with her, and that's when she was like the peak,
huge. Yeah, huge.
You know what I mean?
She was huge at the time. Yeah.
So I felt the whole. I see what you guys are saying about just the whole group as a whole, and then where they elevated to just from the EP to East 1999 and on and on. So, but as far as you all were concerned, obviously the untimely death of Eazy-E kind of shook Ruthless Records in a different direction. Yeah. How did you guys? What did you guys have to do to in order to keep you guys' careers moving forward? Because obviously now the visionary is unfortunately no longer there, and I'm sure there are other elements that are trying to come in and do certain things. How were you guys able to stay focused and really continue to elevate your career as Kokane as well as Hutch with Above the Law?
Well, the last time, I'll tell you a story, and Hutch knows as well because he was there. We were both there. Last time we seen Eric Wright, we had a meeting at House of Blues.
Yes, it was House of Blues.
It was with Above the Law, KMG, rest in peace, Eazy-E, rest in peace, Hutch, and our homegirl, Jada Pickett. At that time, she had a film company. That's our homegirl. People like that, and Regina King, that's our homegirl.
Yeah,
you know? Right. So we were chopping it up. Eric was coughing for a little bit.
She was going to direct California, so you can get an insight. She was going to direct California
video. Yeah. Absolutely. Shout out to the homegirl, Jada Pickett.
Yeah.
But once we heard, he was gone. He was on his way out. It just threw us for a loop, man, because that was our lifeline. You know what I mean? Assets got froze. A lot of things tampered with. There's some things we keep it to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because of Eric's passing, it was kind of like some trickery. And we were just like, wow, man, that's all. Well, we're glad we had a chance to see how we seen him instead of him plugged up the tubes and stuff. And it just took us for a loop, man. And in our humble opinion, we was like, man, there's no more Ruthless Records. When Eazy-E passed, that dynasty had passed. So we had moved on. We fulfilled our contractual agreements. And I signed with Scotty Brothers at that time, along with Yella. He had a song called One More Nigga to Go. We had a song called This Is for the E, in remembrance of our beloved brother, Eric Wright. And, all of us just, you either had to get back in the paint and hustle and do other things, or, you just continue to build through our music. And, me and Hutch, since I think we felt it, you know what I'm saying? It was our obligation, besides just being musically inclined, and still push the line for Eazy-E, Eric Wright, because he was much more than our CEO. And you got to realize we were all so young. Our oldest CEO was 27 at the time. But we passed in his 30s or something. Well, put us in a dark situation, but we stood our back against the wall and came out, and did what we had to do to continue the legacy and just basically put food on the table, because at that time, monies were being held up and we had to do something. But, Eric passing, it was incredible. And then the following year, our dear beloved brother, who we had a heavy influence on Kokane, our dear beloved brother Tupac, get killed.
Yep.
And that was crazy. I'll tell you a story about that, not to just switch everywhere. Eric passed and we like, wow. And then Tupac get out. Then I seen on Sunset, along with Spice One, we started linking up. He linked in with Hutch in New York, I think.
Yep, New York. Night before.
He wanted us to really got down with that One Nation project, because I did a song called Fortune and Fame. And Hutch did some songs for him. And it's crazy because, he invited us both to the Mike Tyson fight at that time. I had obligations because I had to deal with Scotty Brothers in Yella, and Hutch had prior obligations, so we couldn't attend. And it was like, wow, minutes later, we hear our brother gone. Be Legit called me on the phone. And it's like, man, it's true. Shout out to Be Legit. I was like, what you talking about? Pop gone. And I did, you know, we already knew, like, it was like, nah, not Teflon Don, the real Teflon Don. But he was gone, man, and it just, here we are again at this place. Me and Hutch was like saying, damn, Eric died? Now our little bro, Pop? Because Pop used to be like this, sitting at, we used to be at Audio Achievements, or our studio in La Cienega, Centinela. Ironically, the same studio in walking distance to Snoop Dogg, where he auditioned. He has the same studio called A Compound in walking distance. But Pac used to soak it up like this. He was real fascinated with the life and death songs that Above the Law was doing and Kokane was doing at that time. You know, because the first song that he got put on was the same song. Well, people don't know the first feature that he did outside of his home cap was the Above the Law Black Mafia Life feature.
Call it what you want.
So you got these two great artists, CEO, Eazy gone, now Tupac gone. Eazy gone, Tupac gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it put us down, but it encouraged us, me and Hutch, even more to go harder and stronger.
And I think, Nick, you know, like when Eric died, for us, you know, the ironic part is we didn't have a contract anymore. We had honored our contract. You know, we went to the reading of the contract to see what we were going to do, whether we was going to either be obligated to do something with the label or not. You know, our attorneys were like, you guys can do whatever you guys want to do because you've honored, you know, you're probably one of the only artists in the industry that has ever honored you guys' whole contract and did everything, you know, by it. I mean, you don't owe anybody a record or anything. It's just totally honored. You know what I mean? You fulfilled the years and you fulfilled the obligations. So for us, we just continued working, you know, because we knew that Ruthless Records was Eazy-E. You know, it's his vision, like how it's going to roll, how it's going to tick. A lot of new people came in and had different visions, and we didn't trust that, you know, because we didn't know what their passion was. We didn't know what their intentions was. God bless them, you know what I mean? But we only knew Eric, you know, so we kept it moving. We went and signed a really great deal with Tommy Boy. Shout out, you know, to Tommy Boy, you know, did a couple of records there, did really well, you know, and just continued on. Then we started our own labels, you know, started our own companies and then kept going, you know, and then like Coco say, we either grind in the street, did everything that we had to do just to, you know, keep food on the table. But yeah, Eric had us prepared to just continue to hustle, you know, and we weren't held up by contractually. Now we were held up by, like, you know, the monies and the royalties and those type of things. But work part, Eric was, you know, I mean, it was no hold up. We were free to move on and do whatever we wanted to do until they worked that out, you know. And, you know, unfortunately, Ruthless being a powerhouse that it was, it's not mentioned like a Def Jam. It's not mentioned like a lot of these great labels that was, but it was a powerhouse. You know, even Death Row. It's not, you know, it's not mentioned like that. And Ruthless is the blueprints of all of that. You know what I mean? The things that we done in such a short period of time. Shout out to MC Ren, because me and Ren was talking about this during the Straight Outta Compton campaign. It was like, man, if you think about the stuff we did between 88 and like 91, look at the phenomenal stuff that got accomplished between there and there. You know what I mean? And we were, and most of us were barely, some of us couldn't get into clubs, and some of us were barely getting into clubs. You know, we were about 19, 20, 21. Yeah, I think the oldest one of us was probably Eric. Eric was like 25, 26 at the time. I mean, we were all like 19, 20, 21. Like, you know what I mean? We were barely able to go out and party, you know what I mean? And making these phenomenal records, you know? So, yeah, it's heavy, man. It was really, really heavy. And with, you know, to roll it into the Pac situation was even heavier, because the original Thug Life, what people don't know, the original Thug Life is all of us is Above the Law. It's all of the guys that were in Thug Life. It's Tretch. is Stretch and his brother that was in Live Squad. That's the original Thug Life.
A lot of people don't know that.
That's the group. That's really the original group. It's Rated, it's Pac, Mo, Rated, Psych, me, Cam G, Kokane, Tretch, Big Stretch and his brother. That's the original Thug Life, the group. What happened was when we were all young and we used to run together and we was in a young Hollywood scene, smoking weed, fucking shit up, tearing up hotels, doing crazy shit. We all ran together, but then we got record deals and everybody blew up. So he took the first record and done it with Psych, Rated, Mo, and Macadocious, the group, the clique he was running with, like cats he toured with, you know what I mean? And did that. And the second album was gonna be the whole clique, like a Wu-Tang, like an industry Wu-Tang, you know.
Oh, that'd have been dope.
Yeah, that's the original Thug Life plan. That was the whole plan, to put like 4 different groups together and make one clique called Thug Life. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah,
man.
that's how tight we were. You know, tight. He's been at our house, to my mama house, Mama Candy, Coco's auntie, to eat. He's been at our house, eating in our house. You know, that's how tight we were with Pac. Pac has eaten at our table before. He was a really dear friend of ours. You know what I mean? Him and Mo Pre. Shout out to his brother Mo. You know, really good friends of ours. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like when we were coming up, we probably spent 80-90% of our lives together, fam. You know what I mean?
Were you guys able to kind of talk to him before? I mean, I know it was kind of crazy with him being on death row, but you guys still had contact with him. Were you guys able to kind of talk to him and say, hey, man, this may not be the right road. You want to stay away from
him the night before. I was with him the night before before Vegas happened. I was with him in New York the night before that. We didn't really get much to talk about, but if I'd have went to Vegas, we would have sat down and had a real talk, you know, because things were moving. We were at the MTV Awards after party. That's the same night him and Nas got into it, you know. There was so much chaos when that happened. They security came in and dispersed everything, and then we kind of went on our ways and was like, we'll see each other in Vegas. But like Coca said earlier, I got caught up finishing the project on Above the Law in New York for a day. I got held back a day and couldn't fly into Vegas, so I didn't go, you know. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved to sit down with him, but I can tell you something really real, Nick. But the fact of, I think how loyal Pac was is why that wouldn't have, I mean, me saying it is one thing. What his belief system was that he was so loyal to people. He believed that the way he looked at things was like how it's supposed to be. Like it's normal to him. Like who I'm rolling with, I'm that loyal. If something is to happen to me, then so be it, you know?
No, that's deep, man. I mean, you guys are obviously cousins. You guys are family. At one point, Hutch, I know you went over to death row after the post, the second run, as they like to call it.
The row.
Kokane obviously started working with Snoop, you know, dealing with the Doggy Style and Doghouse. How are you guys able to still maintain that relationship and that friendship? Because sometimes the music industry, as you guys know, we've seen, you know, people break up over the smallest things, but you guys are still maintain that bond and that real deal brotherhood, you know.
Our grandmother, we have a beautiful angel that looks over us, you know what I mean, that tells us that it's family first. And what you have to do in business, it doesn't mean that you're not still family. You know what I mean? You have to, like Coca said earlier, he had to put food on his table. I had to put food on mine. Me working with Suge was a friend. He was my friend. And it was a business decision. It had nothing to do with versus nobody, you know? And like I said, we were raised by some powerful people. So we always understood it's family first. You know what I mean? And if you got to go do something, you know, to feed your family, you have to respect that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, every man got to go on his own individual
journey. Absolutely. Amen.
I had to go on my journey, and to keep it brutally honest, you know, I had to change some things in my life. You know what I mean? Because I had shout out to my wife. I've been with her 38, married 33.
Shout out Alicia.
Yeah, children. Yes, by that same woman. None of that stuff. No disrespect.
That's amazing.
But it's just a blessing, to be able to go through something and still have your feet on solid ground, to be able to persevere through all the storms. And I did jail time during those times. I did fed time, because of situations we were put in and we had to survive. But when you look back at the whole thing over 30-something years making professional records, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do records like this with my cousin, because this is where I started from. And I tell this to everybody, the stigma of you got to reach a certain age and it's over with. Well, that don't have nothing to do with it, because that don't have nothing to do with NBA. Music don't have nothing to do with NBA. You could be like 81 years old like George Clinton and killing the game, as opposed to, when you get up 40 years old, your knees go bad in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We were here to, God put us here first to do music because it was embedded in our DNA. But to be able now, 30 years later, with all this rich history and catalog, to be able to articulate that and use that as a footstool to really help people be inspired. You know what I mean? Because when they look at your Hutches and you look at your Kokanes, you'll be like, they'll get to asking those questions, the right questions, if you keep asking, if you keep seeking. And it's just honorable as an elder now to be able to go back and give them some insight, so some of the troubles they can avoid, because we sacrificed for them already. And it's much more putting out records that people still love today. The more relevance of what we're doing now, we became teachers, not preachers. We became, mentors and, guidance counselors through this game. That if you do what you have to do and you follow the rules and you do research and you do everything that we're sharing through our experiences, you too can do what you need to do. Because one in particular, what made Nipsey Hussle so special, because most 13-year-olds don't put computer parts together. What made him special is that he was able to listen to Above the Laws and the Kokanes and soak it up from the Snoops, mix
NWA,
inspired his own game to be able to put something fresh and innovative out there. I think this generation, because of the internet, it doesn't stifle the organic part of how growth is. Like just walking outside with your shoes on versus playing video games, shooting each other. Just being able to read a book as opposed to just hearing somebody talk about it. So it's like with us, I think we stayed together because we kept our organic approach about everything and didn't necessarily conform to what, unquote, the new thing. Now, people are still rolling 6-4 Chevys, but they came out in the 60s. People still wearing Chuck Taylors, but they came out in the 40s. I'm saying ain't no substitution for good, and you can't put something that is outdated that lasts forever, because music is eternal. When you have something to leave to the whole world, it's only one of the things that they're going to remember by you is how you inspired them. And we're fortunate and blessed to be put out all these records. I'm very humble for being on thousands of features, the most featured collaborative artist in the history of the business, but to still have that hungry approach with the elder intellect to be able to move, be a mover and shaker now. So with great power comes even more of a greater responsibility. And me and Hutch just, we're in that cool state of mind to where, wow, we're using this power correctly to not be so much industry, but so much people's channel. And exactly what we did with the Architects of G-Funk is really hitting the people. So we're really pleased with that.